Could you imagine if you could remember like every moment in your entire life? Like you could even remember when you couldn't walk and you had those baby little wobbly legs, or even when your parents had to wipe your ass for you. There are things that I'm glad that I don't remember. I'm happy that I can remember any of those things. Maybe we weren't meant to remember them. Let me just put it that way. Anyways, all jokes aside, in today's video, this is kind of just a more laid-back, chill video, but I wanted to talk about army building. It's something that Hasbro has been, I think, a little bit more open to. I don't think that they were necessarily as forthcoming with a lot of army builders back in the day, and I completely understand. I think that they had to kind of establish the entire line going forward, especially with their more modern action figures. They felt like they had to establish, you know, a brand new Captain America, or every version or every iteration that you can think of Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man. I mean, how many different Spider-Mans haven't we received over the last 5 to 6 years? We've essentially fleshed out our entire Spider-Man display. Same thing with any other character that you can think of. We have like the foundational pieces, and now it's time to build on those with some army builders. We just got the Outriders 2-pack, which was absolutely phenomenal. It was a great army builder for people that have really been focusing in on their MCU display, especially considering we've been receiving those newer or that newer line where they're just re-releasing old Marvel Legends MCU action figures. I forget what those are called, but I know they did it with like with the 10th anniversary MCU Marvel Legends line, where they were just re-releasing older figures just to give an opportunity for newer collectors to pick them up. And we've actually seen some great re-releases. We had the Children of Thanos, for example, 5-pack, which was phenomenal. The Guardians of the Galaxy 5-pack, all of that just to give an opportunity for newer collectors to pick them up, or just old collectors that just wanted extras of those particular figures. So now it's time for them to really flesh out, and in today's video I wanted to talk about some of the best MCU army builders that I think Hasbro can still give us. Some of these are pretty straightforward. There's not much to talk about, but I still feel like it's worth mentioning, especially considering the Outriders are all brand new sculpt, at least from what I can tell. Mostly there's new engineering in there, and they're probably not the cheapest to manufacture and mass produce. However, some of the action figures, or some of the figures that I wanted to talk about in today's video, are actually pretty accessible. They're pretty cheap, and that's why I wanted to talk about them in today's video, because let's be brutally honest, army builders can't be expensive for Hasbro. It can't be to the point where they need a brand new body mold every single time they're going to army build a character or a number of different characters. And so it's really important for it to be still accessible for Hasbro, otherwise they're not going to do it. It's also worth mentioning, before you guys get all riled up, this is only for MCU figures. These are just the best army builders that we want from the MCU. I might miss a few here and there, but for the most part, I think we will essentially cover most of them in today's video. I will make one for the comic book versions of any army builder that we could think of, and that will be a separate video. So keep up to date with the channel, and you guys will be able to catch that video on the flip side. Let's start off with the first one, and that is, what about some really cool sentries for Ultron? We got the original. I think we've gotten 2 versions of Marvel Legends MCU Ultron up to this point. The first one was a Build-A-Figure, and then we got that 10-year studio version, which, by the way, was, I think, I remember it being like $12 for the longest time. Like, you could easily pick this up. I think even the Iron Man for that 10-year anniversary one was really inexpensive, but this would be a really easy reuse. Just get that exact same body mold that you already have for Ultron, and you know, you could do something simple. You could do like maybe a 2-pack with like a one with a damaged head sculpt, maybe like a really battle damaged one where maybe like half of his face is missing, or another one maybe like the arm, like half of the arm is missing and there's like cables and wiring just sticking out of the arm. It would be really easy reuse, and all they would have to do is maybe sculpt a new head sculpt and then maybe some limbs. Maybe they could do something with like half a torso for an Ultron figure. They could get really creative. Obviously there's a budget there, so they can't go over the top and give us a new body mold or anything crazy like that, but they could still reuse it, give us some, you know, variations, give us options, maybe include like a couple of extra head sculpts. That way, if you wanted to buy multiples, you could, and then have a little tiny army of Ultrons there to protect Ultron himself. Now, I think they did this with the comic book version, where they had these pretty widely accessible, and I think even if you wanted to pick up some extra Ultrons from the comic book universe, you can do so. But it would be really cool, especially considering in the MCU most of these were like not in mint condition. A lot of them were battle damaged, and so it'd be really cool to see something like that. It's not necessarily the fan favorite. Nobody is tripping over themselves trying to get an extra Ultron. Like I said, this particular figure was on sale for like the longest time. People really did not like this movie for some ironic reason. I actually enjoyed it. It's an okay MCU movie. It's not the worst, but like I said, source material aside, it would be really cool to be able to army build with your Ultrons for the MCU. We also have the Chitaris, which were originally, or made their first appearance in the, if I'm not mistaken, the first Avengers movie. We would later see them, but you know, we all know that they have ties to Thanos, but Loki utilized them in that particular film. And another really easy opportunity for them, I don't think there's going to be reuse here. I don't think we've ever gotten a Marvel Legends Chitauri, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong on this, but I think Marvel Select released their version, but that was like a 7-inch scale, so it was a little bit off. You can still kind of throw them into your Marvel Legends display, but obviously very limited articulation and very limited accessories. So if you're into that type of thing where you like mixing Marvel Select with Marvel Legends, you can actually pick these up even brand new, I think for about 40. Used, you're still gonna have to pay about like high 20s, like 27, 28, around there, closer to $30 if you're interested in that. But it's a really cool opportunity for Hasbro if they want to do another army builder for these. Maybe just throw in some weapons, some battle damage on one of them, just reuse the exact same body mold. Like I said, the options are there. Maybe make it a Pulse exclusive version. I will say, hopefully they don't try to introduce this into a Build-A-Figure, because we have seen this happen quite often with Hasbro, where they introduce it into a Build-A-Figure and then it's really hard to complete those particular figures that you're trying to build, because everybody's trying to get that one army builder. So this seems like something that could be either a single pack and just a normal mainline release, or maybe a deluxe release, or a 2-pack with that like $60 price point, which it seems like that's what you're going to get if you want 2 deluxe figures. But it would be great to finally be able to add even more army building to your Avengers display, especially when you're talking about the first Avengers. Even though I believe they do make more appearances throughout the MCU, that was like our first real introduction into the Chitauri. And then finally, to wrap up today's video, I actually would love to see some Frost Giant Marvel Legends action figures as army builders. And I get it, they're not as uniform as they are in the comic books. I think they had way more uniform armor, so you could easily reuse body molds and just throw different maybe headsets and things of that nature. But with the MCU, it was a little bit different. Not all of the characters shared defining characteristics, so it would definitely be more challenging, but they can maneuver a way around that. They could easily manufacture these. Now, I do remember a lot of these Frost Giants being pretty big, so there could be a deluxe release, maybe a 2-pack, or this could be a Build-A-Figure of some kind where you could essentially buy multiples of these. The Build-A-Figure obviously doesn't work very well, because you would have to buy a lot of these through the third-party market, or you would have to buy a bunch of these waves, and it just wouldn't make sense to have action figures repeated. So I guess a Build-A-Figure way doesn't really work. I feel like this is one of those that they could make a Build-A-Figure and then eventually re-release it as like a deluxe figure maybe. We know that Hasbro absolutely loves doing that kind of stuff, but only time will tell if we're ever able to get any of these. These were just some of the cool army builders that I thought of at a moment's notice. I didn't like do too much research. I may have missed some, so let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What army builders from the Marvel Cinematic Universe would you love to see in action figure form, or which ones have you enjoyed in the past? Because I know Hasbro has been giving us quite a few. Most of them are based in the comic books rather than the MCU, but it still gives us hope for the future. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to stay tuned. We do upload pretty consistently, like 3 to 4 times on a weekly basis, and we ramble on about action figures. So make sure to stay tuned, stay safe out there, and as I always say, make sure to enjoy the hobby. Enjoy the action figures, pose them, play with them, just have fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.